Welcome to the broadcast for Blender Basics Part 3 Supplemental. This is Apollos transmitting from the Blender Underground at blenderunderground.com. This is a brief addendum to Blender Basics Part 3. After much investigation by Blender Underground operatives, we have a few things to add or correct that will be of interest to those in the Underground. Many thanks to those operatives at blenderunderground.com for going above and beyond in our opposition to the man. You can follow the discussion at the website. If you haven't seen the Blender Basics Part 3 broadcast, then this supplemental presentation may not make sense, so head over to blenderunderground.com and download Part 3. Okay, fire up Blender and let's get started. I'm using version 2.44, available for download at blender.org. Let's take a quick look back at pivot modes, where I expressed there was no apparent difference between median point and bounding box. It turns out there is a difference, and let's take a look at what it is. I'm going to duplicate this cube 4 times for 5 across using Shift D to duplicate, and then I'm going to hold Control to snap at about 5 Blender units. I'm going to do this until we have 5 cubes across. We'll move that one into place. And I'm going to select this leftmost cube. I'm going to duplicate it twice the same way. Shift D and then hold Control. Okay, and I'm going to move the camera and the lamp off of this layer just to get them out of the way. So I'm going to select both of those. Press the M key, choose layer 2, and click OK. What we have here is an L shape comprised of cubes. I'll select all the cubes with A. Now if I switch the pivot mode between median and bounding box, you'll notice the transform manipulator moves. Here's what's going on. With all the cubes selected, I have a virtual bounding box that surrounds all the selected objects. With the pivot mode set to bounding box, the transform origin is right in the center of this box. This differs from median point in that median point is an average of all the selected objects. And if I activate median point and select these one at a time, you can see the transform origin drift as it's averaged out between the selected objects. However, if I switch back to bounding box mode, as I select each of these, you can see the transform origin is always in the middle of a virtual box that surrounds the selected objects. Okay, I'm going to raise these leftmost cubes to make this example a little more three-dimensional. Now with all our cubes selected, and with our pivot mode set to bounding box, if I switch between top, front, and side views, you can see that the transform manipulator always remains at the center of the bounding box. We can get a concrete view of this bounding box by doing the following. With all the cubes selected, let's join them by pressing Ctrl J and confirming in the dialog. Switch to viewport draw type to bounding box, and you'll see the box exactly as the bounding box pivot mode sees it. Ctrl J simply joins the mesh data of each of the selected objects into one object. All the geometry still exists, but instead of 7 objects, we have only 1. When we looked at creating faces, we showed you how to select 4 individual vertices and press the F key to make a face. This can also be done in edge mode, it turns out, with fewer mouse clicks. Let's delete one of the faces on this cube and I'll demonstrate. I'll tab into edit mode, switch to face mode, select this front face, press X for the erase menu and I'll choose faces. This leaves us a cube minus one face. We can create a face in vertex mode as we previously demonstrated by selecting the four proper verts and pressing F. And there you have it, a face. And I'm going to undo that. We can create the same face in edge mode by selecting only two of these edges and pressing F. Now this is going to be a huge time saver if you have a lot of faces to fill. Let's take a look at a couple things with extrude and make face. I'm going to switch to face select mode and I'm going to select these front three faces. I'm going to delete them. X for the erase menu and choose faces. Now in vertex mode, I can select this corner vert and I can extrude it. And I'll press E and then Z to constrain and Control to snap. And now I can rebuild this cube face by face, just like we did before. I'll switch to edge mode, select two edges and press F. Select two edges, F. Let's go ahead and undo what we just did. I'll Control Z until that extrusion is gone and we're left with just those three faces again. Now instead of extruding, I can duplicate this vertex with Shift D. So with it selected, I'll press Shift D to duplicate. I have a duplicated vertex. I'll constrain on Z and hold Control to snap. And I'm going to turn off the transform manipulator just so this is easier to see. And I can select these two verts here. And if I press F now, instead of making a face, I'll make an edge. Now we're back where we were when we extruded the vertex to begin with. And we can switch back into edge mode, select our edges, and start filling our faces from here. Go ahead and undo that. I can also extrude an edge. So if I just select this one edge and I hit E to extrude and I'll constrain on X and hold Control to snap, I just filled a face that way. Just remember when you do this, you'll have extra vertices in these two spots, here and here. And if I switch back to vertex mode and I'll border select this top vert here, and I'll collapse my menu items at the top so you can see my info readout. And you can see that I have two vertices selected there. And I also have two vertices selected there on the bottom. So you can do the extrusion this way, but you'll have to merge these verts with either the merge command or the remove doubles command. And you can find those in the specials menu. Merge, remove doubles. I missed out showing you the easiest way to add multiple loops with the loop cut tool when we were making the tin can. I'll get rid of this cube and create a cylinder in its place. Now I had you add multiple loops one at a time because I wanted to use the transform properties window in the grid. And so we added these one at a time. Go ahead and undo that. Now if we activate loop cut with Control R, before clicking to confirm, scroll with the mouse wheel and you can select how many loops you want to cut. Now how cool is that? This is just a great way to use loop cut and save time. Okay, go ahead and undo that. And let's look at one more way to save time using subdivide multi. I'll go to front view. I'm going to switch to edge mode and I'm going to border select just these vertical edges. Press W for the Specials menu, and choose Subdivide Multi, and then choose the number of cuts you want. I'll up this to about 7. And there you have it. We just created 7 cuts across those vertical edges with the Subdivide Multi command. What you need to remember with this command is that each selected edge is going to be subdivided. So if we had horizontal edges in our model, they also would have been subdivided. And I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to create a couple horizontal edges with the Loop Cut tool. And I'll border select all these. And now if I subdivide multi, we get a real mess. So in this case, select only the vertical edges. And I'll just border select only those vertical edges in between the cuts. Press W for the Specials menu, choose Subdivide Multi, 7 cuts, and we have our 7 cuts in between those horizontal edges. The way that the link geometry command was presented in part 3 was just plain wrong. And let me show you what I mean. Let's get rid of the cube and create another cylinder. X to erase, add mesh cylinder, click OK, and let's fix this up for subsurf the same way we've been doing. K to bring up the Loop Cut menu, choose Knife Midpoints, draw a circle, and press enter. Let's add a subsurf modifier, and then let's apply it to make it real. Back in edit mode, let's select the cap verts and let's split them with the Y key. I'm going to switch to face mode. I'm going to border select these bevel faces. And again Y to split. And now the bevel's split off from the rest as well. Here's the way the L key works to select link geometry. Hover your mouse over a face and press L to select linked. The way we presented it in the Part 3 tutorial was incorrect. We suggested that the geometry needed to actually be selected before you press the L key. This is not the case. If we select a face and move our mouse away and press L, we get an error. Nothing indicated. Because the select link command is actually checking under the mouse cursor. It's not looking at selected geometry. The same thing in vertex mode, and I'm going to turn on limit selection to visible just to make things easier. And whatever vertex our mouse is closest to when we press L, it's going to select the linked geometry connected to that vertex. That brings us to the end of this supplement to Blender Basics Part 3, where we once again stick it to the man. Be sure to drop by BlenderUnderground.com if you want to comment. And once again, a special thanks to our agents and operatives in the underground, without whom this presentation would not have been possible. This is Apollo signing off before the man can home into this broadcast. See you next time.